What's poppin' people, welcome back to the channel. As Beelzemon Cup is starting to wrap up, I want to go through the deck that I was able to pilot to first place at our final Beelzemon Cup. This one actually uses just a single starter deck for its main components. So if you have similar rules to our LGS where it was one starter deck's worth of cards that could be used in addition to any legal cards for the format, then this is how you can use it to outpace people. And in fact, if you're also like me and don't own any EX2 Beelzemons until you had these, then this is the sort of deck that you can pilot. So without further ado, let's get on with the video. As we punch back out, we'll be going into, let's start with the eggs, because Digimon starts with the eggs. Fifth egg is going to be the Veemon. I know a lot of people run 4 of it, but I personally, just like my other Beelzemon Cup video, I like the eggs that reward you for sending rookies to God. ST6 Bagramon gets the ult art for a reason, and we're going to be running 4 of them because you are going to be swinging in your Impmons to join the giant nursery in the sky as many times as possible. First Impmon, you get it for participating in Beelzemon Cup. BT6 Impmon, very, very useful. Allows you to bring back your Beelstars, your Beelzemons. Not your blast modes though, but it lets you get your blast modes in trash, which for the way that we are playing things is very, very important. Then, for Impmon from BT2, this is going to be your main cannon fodder. Ideally, you see this on top of a Bagramon, trashing 5 for sending in a rookie, get a free security check. And if it doesn't die, then it's swinging again next turn, or they try and answer it, either by bouncing it back to your hand, which means you just get to do it again, or they have to delete it, and that's potentially them losing 5. So a lot of people are really, really wary about it. We'll be using 2 of the ST14 Impmon because that's what was legal for me. So we're maxing out on the number that are available. Obviously, most people will try and bump this up, but if you are just running 1 starter deck like me, then you've only got access to 1. So I have played in 2 Beelzemon Cups, so I do have all 4 of the ult arts, but EX2 Impmon in any form is legal in this kind of format. So we're running 4 of these. These are your trash fodder. Most of the time, if you're playing aggressively, you're looking to try and top deck these as much as possible. But if they do end up in your hand and you're not planning on using them to stack the deck, then you can use it as a Digivolution target for when you do go up the stack to make sure your Beelzemon is swinging for absurd numbers. And that is going to be the end of our rookie count. So 4 of the trash, 2 of the extras, and then 4 more for a total of 11. And you add in the BT6 Impmon. And then for our champions, 4 of the Beezemon, because when trashed from the deck, which we were doing very, very often, you'll be gaining 1 memory, and the inheritance lets you stack the top of your deck when attacking, which is very useful. But in terms of gas, we are running 3 of the Witchmon. So when you are pushing out from raising and you are playing on Digivolving, you're trashing 3 from the top of your deck. Witchmon really does up the tempo for this deck and is incredibly useful for this kind of gameplay. So we've got 7 of those, but because I don't have any EX2 Beelzemon, I wanted to make sure that when I'm getting rushed or when in the mirror match, which by the way, was able to win 3 times in a row, including finals, which we will go over some of those like highlight moments because unfortunately I don't have footage for it. The Porcupimon was kind of our middleman that helped us keep the tempo. It gets rid of the Impmons without you necessarily losing security. As a result, it being level 4 helps it avoid deletion from the new Impmon, and just those low-level early deletes, they do have to work a little bit harder to it, have to commit a Death Slinger in the mirror, and on play does trash too. So if you have to Digivolve with the Wizardmon and you have to put something on top of your deck, but you're not getting the trash off as a result, without having to commit a body to the commit to a swing, you can on-play this, get those trashes, and get yourself the momentum that you need. In addition to obviously setting up the blocker, which helps you slow down, get rid of the rookies, and prevents lethal on things like the Beelzemon when it is swinging for multiple checks. Last champions that we will be running is the 2 of the Dobemon. It is one of those targets as well that if you digivolve over your on-deletion Impmons, it means you're still keeping that on-deletion pressure that makes it a little bit more awkward for them to answer it. And it does help you bring back your Iron Markers from trash, because you can recur a purple Digimon or a purple Tamer card, which just makes it a little bit more versatile, even if it is a little bit harder to get itself to die in security. So that's an additional 4, so 4, 4, and 3. That is 11 champions. Going into the ultimate lineup. Nothing new here. Everyone runs 4 of the ST14 Balmon. If you're not doing it, you're trolling. It is just the better version of Balmon. It's a wizard like most of the other pieces in the deck, so Iron Marker can pick it up. And then what we do that's slightly different to other people, some people use the old Balmon. I instead prefer to use 2 of the Skull Satamon as our final 2 level 5s, simply because I like to play incredibly greedy. I want to be rewarded every time memory trash is there, and I want to play a very memory hungry playstyle. So when a card is trashed, you're gaining back the memory, which in addition to the new Beelzemon, it helps you keep turn if you don't necessarily have a massive trash, just because it is that extra little bump that you need. It's not searchable by the Iron Mako, and it is a little bit of an awkward piece, but the fact that it can also recur a Demon Lord from trash if it's gone there early and you don't have Beelzemons in your opening hand can be quite helpful. So we are running the 6 ultimates, and then as we go up into the megas, the old BT2 Beelzemon, I'm not a huge fan of him. He was more kind of a necessity because, like I said before, only 1 starter deck's worth of cards were legal in the format that I was playing in, and this helped me just get a little bit more warp consistency whilst I don't have the 4 of the Impmons or too many of the new Beelzemons. Speaking of older Beelzemons, whilst I hate this one, I love the BT10 Beelzemon. It has been so incredibly clutch. It's amazing in the Bloom Lord matchup. Helps you clear those wide boards. In fact, one of the highlight games in finals that helped me snatch away game 1 was I was staring down a situation where I was looking at this as my opponent's board. They just used the EX2 Beelzemon as part of their trash when digivolving that had actually played 2 of these Impmons fresh. So I was now staring down 3 bodies on the board. It was looking like I was potentially going to get lethal next turn with how wide they just suddenly gotten, and obviously answering them was going to be incredibly difficult. They'd given me 3 memory, I think, and I wasn't sure how I was going to play this one out. So I ended up digivolving in the back to a Witchmon, which pushed me up to 1 memory, and then we dropped this for 11. Yes, we're maxing out their memory, but it means if they see Wizardmon or Deathslinger, they're not gaining any value out of it, and those cards are effectively dead in the water. And of the 6 cards that were trashed, because I had 20 in trash, pop 1, 6 cards going to the trash, and that included 4 Wizardmon and Deathslingers in total, accumulative, which ended up completely nuking their late game and ultimately helped me snatch away victory. So whilst it did get answered eventually, this was a huge this was a huge out to a potentially really difficult board, and against the non-purple matchup, like I said, Bloom, very, very common way of getting rid of their pieces. Then finally leaving our one-offs behind, we were running 2 of the new Beelzemon. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to pull the cool purple one because you know I'd be flexing it if I did. But this one is an incredible card, definitely one of the best Beelzemons they've ever printed. Gains you back so much memory, trashes top 4, and obviously the Sec +1 is incredibly nice, especially now that we do have a way of getting re-stood. This will probably go up to at least 3 in future lists, but for this 1 starter deck, no EX2 Beelzemon kind of list that I was running, chose to go with this. And then out of regular Beelzemons, we are going to go down with 2 of Beelstar, and she is just fantastic. When you're playing such an aggressive, mill-hungry, memory-hungry playstyle, you end up on 30 cards a lot. Sometimes you end up with enough memory that you can actually still just drop her when you have 20 cards and it's costing 5, but you're still able to make her work. Giving the on-play Impmon's Rush is very, very easy when you do have your 5th egg. or any other just digivolving trash. Fantastic card, and also defensively helps you go wide and set up lethal in ways that very much scares a lot of people. Also, the fact that the attack trashes the top card does proc the all turns for the Beelzemon, so you can play a very control-based style where you've got the Beelzemon out, and just for them trying to play the game, Beelzemon is Beelzemon is milling through your deck and making things more difficult for them. Much safer when you have 20 cards in trash, but if you are on 30, you are putting yourself on a timer, especially if you choose to drop 2. I run 2 to make it more likely that I will see her without having to bring her back from trash with that BT6 Impmon, but occasionally you will whiff on her, but she is nice to have as an 11k DP body. So that's all of our level 6s, 2 Beelstar and 4 Beelzemon overall. But we do have 2 blast modes for game, because 2 come in the starter deck, so 2 is what we're using. The unsuspend when you have 20 cards, that is our end game most of the time. And when you're going over the new Beelzemon, you're swinging effectively for 4 checks throughout the game. Very, very strong card. And again, wouldn't run any less than 2. There's a reason they give us 2, and that's why we want to use them. So that is all of our megas, level 6s and 7s accounted for. We're not running any of the old blast mode, as much as it's nice for consistent level 4 clear and that wide board clear if needed, if they do have the same levels. You're doing enough checks off of the new Beelzemons that you don't necessarily need to cheese people with the multiple check kind of thing. And if you're doing this off of an Iron Mako, you can actually basically digivolve for free from trash. Speaking of Iron Mako, we will show off the new one first. Running 3 of them. Fantastic card, lets you stack the deck, it lets you facilitate all of your plays and really cheese people out. Also is basically your best turn 1 opener. Rookie in the back, and then Iron Mako to search for a level 4 or higher, whatever you're missing from your opening hand. Fantastic card. Wish I could fit 4, but 3 of the new kids is what we've gone for. And we are running 2 of the Memory Tamer, because, like I said before, it lets you play a blast mode from trash, which means you can actually choose to stack it on the top with your new Iron Mako in order to try and get some sort of scaling delete, and then bring it back from trash later using this Eye and Mako. I've had turns where I've come out with that Warp Impmon, warped into the new Beelzemon or anything like that. In fact, even the BT11 one, warped into that and then proc the Iron Mako in order to go straight into blast mode, gain a boatload of memory back and get the board clear, the stuff that I need in order to really apply pressure. But also being a memory setter is incredibly useful. You can choke your opponent to 1, especially in the mirror where a lot of people are running the new one. The old one just gives you a bit more consistency, like dropping it 1 turn and next turn you'll be able to use an Iron Mako without having to pass turn, which means when you digivolve, you potentially might have multiple Iron Makos going off to keep that digivolution free as well. Fantastic card, and whilst I think 3 is too many, 1 isn't consistent enough, so 2 is the middle ground I've gone for, and that ends up with 5 Iron Makos that can be searched off of the on-play Impmon. When it comes to options, to make up for the fact that we do not have that EX2, we are running a Darkness Wave. It's the 1-drop option that lets you trash 3 cards from your deck. Most of the time you're going to hit into something else that turns it into much more, but I've used it to choke to 1. I've used it thinking I was going to choke to 1 and gaining back too much memory that I actually get to keep turn and do other things. But it's a great way of setting up cards in trash, and of course it does set off your Beelzemon as well, which means you can get a 1-cost rookie effectively that has rush, can then do some crazy things. Great card out of security as well, because it activates the card's main effect, which means it can sometimes end up as like a Jack Raid or anything like that. If they hit it in security, because you could mill the memory stuff, you could mill the extra trash things, you could mill a delete, which means this card is incredible just randomly out of security when your opponent is not expecting to play around it. 2 miss memory boosts because it's a 3-drop that lets you trash 2, which means sometimes it's a 1-drop. Often early game you end up choking your opponent when you drop it, because you'll probably end up trashing something that has a cool effect. I've used it to trash EX2 Impmon and get like 9 cards in trash turn 1. It's a fantastic card, and it's a mem boost that lets you set up for your other Tamers most likely. We are running just 2 Rivals Barrage, again, because 2 is what comes in the starter deck. This could easily be bumped up to 3 to help you find your Iron Makos and your less searchable pieces should they hit the trash early. Your Beelzemon basically is your usual go-to target late game, because she herself is just a fantastic card, and I've used this in order to delete big bodies. It is a fantastic thing. Obviously, it's probably well documented by the time this video has come out. It does not go to the battle area after you use the main effect. It does go straight to trash. If you want it in your battle area, it needs to be trashed from the top of your deck, so you'll need to stack it with your Eye and Mako. And as far as the final cards you'll be stacking with your Eye and Mako, Death Slinger. Honestly, do not understand how this card exists. The fact that it's just a 4-drop delete level 4 that scales with the game, scales with your main progression. Busted card. I've used it, in fact, in finals. Someone hit it with a blast mode, check 1, died instantly because I had 30 cards in trash in the late game. And that was effectively the game losing swing for them because they just had no way of making it back. One of the other situations that I ended up in that was very funny, I had a situation like this, which actually was how I stole game 1. I had a really, really rough draw where I just didn't see any Beelzemons. I was massively behind for the entire game, but we ended up being able to clutch it out because they played kind of aggressively and they hadn't quite been able to finish me off thanks to some decent removal attempts that tried to help me slow the pace down. And it ended up where they had an Impmon that had revealed of the last 5 cards of their deck. Some Wizardmons and bottom decked them, so I knew they were kind of out of play. They had 5 cards left and ended up managing to finish the turn with 3. We had an Impmon that was a Witchmon in raising, and we had Rival's Barrage in hand. We push out, swing at the suspended blast mode, which forced him, he didn't realize that Beelzemon is a mandatory trash, forced him to trash the last of his 3 cards in his deck, put him down to 2, and then with the Bagramon underneath the blast mode, we used Rival's Barrage in order to clear it, which then deleted the blast mode, forcing the last 2 cards to be trashed, and they ended up decking out, so I was able to steal game 1 from a game that I certainly should not have won, just simply from understanding how the mandatory effects and how the trashing can really punish you for overextending. One of the other really, really cool highlight situations that I had when I was playing was blast mode in hand, have this Impmon come out of raising, we have the Beelzemon already on the field, because I'd used it to commit to the board just to kind of threaten lethal if they tried to swing too many times in one check. It actually worked out way better than my original plan, to the point I don't even remember what my original plan was, but notice that we do have another copy of the Warp Impmon, and we do have the Beelzemon in trash. We come out swinging, Warp Digivolve from trash into the Beelzemon, do all the trashing, gain in memory, and because we trash, play the second Impmon from trash. Because this is just coming off the Warp stack, it doesn't have any extra DP, so when we swing in for our 2 checks, first check, Beelzemon. They trade and die. So I do get my 1 check out, but just means that this that has rush can swing, warp into it again, do the same shenanigans, get the trash off, and swing for 2 checks, which comes in for the 3. We end up then being able to warp Digivolve into the Blastmon because we have more than enough cards in trash, which then swings for another 2 checks, and then we had Beelzemon lethal for game as a result. It was such a crazy occurrence. I think I put myself down to basically like 2 cards in deck in order to do it, but we ended up just being able to completely OHKO them off of actually having the Beelzemon die earlier than expected. But it just shows that this deck, there's always backup plans. You don't have to funnel all of your combos into one thing. It's such a free-form, diverging path deck, and it's so, so fun to play. That is going to be all from me, though. I hope you enjoyed the deck profile. I've really enjoyed covering Beelzemon Cup and the decks that I've been able to use to pilot to success. And I hope that you guys also have success with Beelzemon Cup and just Ultimate Cup and all the other BT11 formats that we do see. If you haven't already, make sure to like and subscribe. It makes you less likely to brick, which is especially on a high roll deck like this, you really don't want to be bricking. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe.